Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh episode of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and before we begin, just a personal note, I want to thank everyone that sent out well wishes during my illness. I had a TIA, a minor stroke that impacted the vision in my right eye. I am pretty much back to normal, I think. Who knows? I am feeling better, though. And so thank you to everyone who's reached out, and a special thanks to this gentleman here, Gabriel, who almost every day sent me a message and said, hurry up and get back. I want to talk football. No, that's not what he said.
I said, how are you feeling?
That's right. That's exactly right. And I appreciate all those comments and all the good wishes from you and everyone else. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good.
You look great. You've been out working out?
Yeah, I've worked out 8 of the last 9 days, I think I've lifted.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, pretty good because, I'm feeling better from that surgery I had. So now I can do more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've gained back 13 of the 16 I lost.
Oh, that's fantastic, man.
So, but when I went in, I was too light. I got to gain back probably another 10.
We're getting some nice comments here in the chat room. Randy says, you guys always have a good chat. You guys play off each other, and it becomes very informative. He's the one that has the information. I'm the one, I hope, that offers good questions and selects the questions in the chat room. So
we got to say one thing, though. You said at the beginning, you're feeling back to normal. But let's clarify this. You're never fucking normal.
That's right. I'm a liberal. Don't spit out your water.
I don't know about that. I think you call yourself one, but a lot of your thought process is a lot more to the right than you think it is.
Well, I think I mentioned to you that someone once told me that when you're young, you're a liberal, and the older you get, you become more and more conservative. That's right.
Actually, Winston Churchill had a saying about that, basically, and I don't remember the exact words, so I'm paraphrasing, but along the lines of, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, there's something wrong with you. But if you're not a conservative in your 30s, you're an idiot.
I love it.
I don't remember the exact words, but somewhere along that lines.
I think I saw it, and that sounds pretty close. Thank you, John, and everyone else in the chat room for your well wishes. Let's get started and talk about football. We haven't been on in about 3 or 4 weeks, so we've got a lot to catch up.
I don't know if it's been that long, has it?
I think it's been at least 3 weeks.
Got your brain. I think it's only been like 3 at the most.
Well, you know what's funny, Greg? When you have a TIA, now, like if I forget something, I'm thinking, am I having another one? And so, I'm living in that constant panic. But then I remember, I've been a goofball my entire life. I've been Dr. Absent-minded, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Oh, we all are. And then as we get older, you get more.
Exactly.
So. Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Bruce Ollie Walter Jordan suggested I go vegan. It will cure you. He went 9 months once. Greg, you're a big meat eater.
I couldn't go vegan for 30 seconds, let alone a day.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it. And my wife loves, steak and all the great meats and stuff. So I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll definitely.
And I like the smoke stuff, like ribs and brisket and stuff like that.
Yeah. And this is that time of the year where you got the grill going and, you're putting all those spices on that red meat. I love it, man. All right, let's talk football. the schedule came out, and every year I do my fancy little schedule graphic, and I'm really patting myself on the back because I just think I did a great job this year. Look at how colorful this thing is. Greg, what strikes you immediately when you see this schedule? When it was released, what came to mind immediately? What were your first thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna give you a little different answer, or react a little differently than most people do. I care about one thing: the first 4 games.
Oh, okay.
Because that sets the tone of the season. And you know as well as I do, in this game, obviously you got to have good players, but luck plays into it too, and momentum plays into it. So if you get off to a fast start, chances are that's going to carry over. And you can go back to Matt Nagy's first year. They got off to a quick start. That wasn't a real strong roster. Oh, they were a missed field goal away from getting to the NFC Championship game.
Right.
So it's, to me, I look at Green Bay at home. Not a doubt in my mind that's a win. I think Tampa Bay at Tampa, the only thing that worries me is if it's 100 degrees down there, and that can be problematic that early. It's really mid-September, so we should be okay. I wish it was a late afternoon game instead of a 12 kickoff Central Time. But who knows what that team's going to be like? They've lost players. They're going to have a new quarterback. So I think that's winnable. The only game that I don't think is winnable in the first 4 is Kansas City on the road. And they get back from Kansas City and they play Denver, and Denver was terrible last year. Who says they're going to turn it all around just because Sean Payton's the coach?
Right.
That doesn't mean anything to me. And I know Sean; he's a good friend. We worked together for 4 or 5 years in New York. So I think those 4 games, 3 of those 4 games are winnable. And then after that, if you stay relatively healthy, then things are good. I think, Washington, week 5, that's a winnable game. And then you're playing Minnesota here. Number one, I think this team, I've written a couple articles about what the roster is going to look like this year, and then can we expect much more from the offense this year? And I think that this team is very undervalued nationally as compared to what it really is. And I'm not being a homer here. I'm just being realistic. When you look at the players that they got on this team, they got damn good players. Now, obviously, they got to come together. They got to gel. But it's the second year within the system. Last year, it was basically a rookie do-over for Justin Fields because it was a brand new offense for him.
Right.
And it was new to everybody else. There was 2 players, and the one guy played 1 quarter of 1 game. Lucas Patrick and Equinemius St. Brown were the only guys that knew the offense. Everybody else it was new to. So I think because of that, you've got a full off season to get the new guys acclimated. And then the carryover guy from last year, I think the offense is going to be dramatically better than it was a year ago.
Notorious says that one of the things that's been overlooked is that the schedule doesn't show is that the Bears have the most rest time than any other team in the entire league. If that is indeed a fact, and I'm not doubting you at all, Notorious. But
somebody wrote that. But they still got to play 2 Thursday night games, and those are tough.
Those are tough.
So yeah, you got rest in between the Thursday night, the following week game. But those Thursday night games, and I think one's on the road. That's a bitch. When I personally, I do away with Thursday night games. Hate them.
Yes,
absolutely hate them.
And I don't think the players' union likes them much because there has been some data that says there's a lot of injuries that occur on those short rest weeks. But they're here to stay. And there's actually a Friday night game this year too during the Thanksgiving weekend.
Right, Black Friday, and that's going to become a tradition.
Yeah. You ever envision a time in the NFL where they might add a bye week to help players regenerate with all the games that they're adding and the short playing time?
Um, it's a good idea. I don't see it happening because then you'd be pushing the Super Bowl back another week, and you'd be into the middle of February.
Yep. Or you're starting a week earlier, which might be a late August start, and I don't think anybody wants
Well,
to do
they
that.
always start the weekend following Labor Day.
Hmm.
Colleges traditionally start. I'd love it if the NFL started Labor Day. That solves some issues right off the bat. But the
Yeah,
colleges traditionally open up Labor Day weekend, and the NFL a week later. I
yeah.
just think that extra week of really good weather is a
Hmm.
bonus, or
Uh,
potentially really good weather.
yeah, I'm with you. Anything else about this schedule that really shoots out at you? To me, one of the things that I wanted to comment on is the level of competition. It seems that as the year goes on, it becomes less, at least on paper, that we're facing opponents that probably are not as good as the Chiefs. And who knows? I don't know what to think about the
No,
Packers.
and that could be true, but you know as well as I do, every team changes from year to year. I mean, there's a
Absolutely.
minimum 25% turnover with every team, and you just got to get lucky. A team that sucked last year, and you're putting down, today you're putting them down as a W. They could be an undefeated team or a one-loss team when you play them.
Hmm.
So that's just the way it works. The only difficult part I see in the schedule, and coaches break it down into quarters. I do too. Now you got 4 quarters plus a bonus because you have the 17th game. But the third quarter, 3 of those 4 games are on the road. So you
Hmm.
start that off, you're at the Saints, then you're home against Carolina, then you're at Detroit and at Minnesota. So you got, but you come back then that final quarter, you got 3 of them at home. So it does even out, but it'd be nice if it was, 2 home and 2 away of every 4 game period.
Mm. What do you make of the Packers this season? Do you anticipate that they are going to, they have a strong roster. They've got some talent on that roster. They haven't drafted terribly, as some people think. I think they've got some good players in some positions. But do you suspect, like I do, that Jordan Love is going to get off to at least a slow start and maybe never prove himself as a viable starter?
Well, I don't think he's going to be a difference maker like Aaron Rodgers was.
Right, right.
Okay, let's go back a few years ago, and it might have been that 2018 season or 17 season, whatever, was Nagy's first year, and we got up 21-7 or 21-6 or something like that at halftime, and you think, okay, this is going to be a win, and Rodgers hurt his knee, and then he comes back, he goes to the spiritual waters, throws some holy water on that knee, and he comes back and he plays the second half and brings them back. So they're not going to have that. They've been blessed. They've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row, 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. And that in itself is incredible because the Bears have had inconsistent quarterback play. They get a year here and a year there, but basically for 100 years. So I think the Magic's over in Green Bay, but and in all honesty, I think Detroit's a fraud too.
Oh, I love this.
Detroit's Detroit. Yeah, they're going to be tougher. They're going to be physical, but shit, everybody stunk last year. That's why they
Yeah.
won some games.
Well, my concern with the Lions is I don't like the coaching staff, but my concern is they have drafted well the last 2-3 seasons, and they've got some talent there. So we'll see how far that talent takes
Now, I
them.
wasn't real impressed with their draft this year.
Okay,
Okay, they took the running back, which
Jahmyr
I
Gibbs.
thought was way too high.
Mm-hmm. Greg froze on me. Da, 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 da. Greg Gabriel. Look at that contemplative face that Greg has. Let me see what we can do here. I'm going to remove Greg, kick him from the studio, let him come back. And that means that I got to fly solo here. And Darnold, I'm going to put the schedule up. Greg's going to switch to his telephone. That computer of his needs an upgrade. So let me go back to the schedule here and share some of my own personal thoughts on this, and then also react to anything that is in the chat room. Drew says there should be a drinking game. Aldo takes a shot every time Greg's internet cuts out. Yeah, I would be a bigger alcoholic than I am now. Actually, I have not had a drink in 2-3 weeks since my incident. So we're going to try to keep it that way for at least another day or two. But this schedule, that week 3 game against the Kansas City Chiefs, who knows, man? Wouldn't it be great if we upset the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes on the road? And Greg is right. Those first 4 games are so important. So, if we can get out of there with a 2-2 record and then turn around quickly and get ready for the Commanders on a Thursday night game on the road, though. So if we can get 3-2 out of those first 5 games, oh boy, that would be fantastic. Because then in the next 2 weeks, we've got the Vikings and the Raiders at home. Then we make that long trip out to the West Coast to play the Chargers. And Greg tells me he's back, but I'm not seeing him. Let me see. Hold on. He may have. Not seeing you, Greg. Sorry about this, guys. There he is. He's popped in now. You are muted, so when you get your camera set up there, unmute yourself. Yeah, I think. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Excellent.
My computer just shut down and it said this device needs to restart. Ran into a problem.
Oh,
so that's what
I think the problem might be age, just like my problem.
That happens about every 10 days.
Oh, okay.
And then it's already restarted. Like I just don't want to go back into it and then lose it. So we'll just do it on the phone.
Yeah. I mean, you need probably to clear out your hard drive and just get rid of stuff that's old in there, because it's probably messing with your processor. But
you know what I want to do? I have Google Chrome in there and Edge. I think I'm going to just delete Google Chrome.
Well, Chrome is better for StreamYard. I'm not familiar with Edge, though, but we could talk about that later. I was just commenting on this. What were you talking about when you got dropped off? About the Lions, I believe it was.
Yeah, we were talking about the Lions. Yeah, I didn't like the draft. They take Gibbs first. I thought, not that he's not going to be a pretty good player. Mm-hmm. He will be. I don't know if he can be a 20 to 25 touch a game, and that includes receptions. Mm-hmm. Guy, he's not very big. He's only like 195, 198 pounds. And Campbell's a good player. I think he's first rounder. I thought he was a second rounder at best.
Yeah, I was shocked to see him go that early. Shocked. Both of those players went earlier than normal, but I am a big fan of Gibbs. And I think that we may see a resurrection of the run game in the National Football League, just because so many defenses are now beginning to focus on stopping the pass first. For decades we heard, stop the run, stop the run, stop the run. Now it's stop the pass. So, but I got a feeling that Gibbs is going to be a really good one. Let me change the shot here, because nobody wants to see my ugly face. Oh, where'd you go? There you go. All right. So anything else again about the schedule that appears to you? Those last 5 games. By the way, I was going to say, I remember when Lovey would say, we divide the season into
quarters.
Into quarters, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was doing too.
Okay.
And I said, like in the third quarter, they're on the road 3 out of 4 games, and that's the most difficult part as far as having to travel.
Right.
But they're 2-2 in the first quarter, 2-2 in the second quarter, 1-3 in the third quarter, and then 3-1 in the fourth quarter. And then you got the last game at Green Bay, the 17th game. My thinking right now, depending on what, if they get lucky and they gel real good, I think they're 9 right now. 9-8 coming out of the box, and that's a great improvement. But it could be better. It could be like Nagy's year. I put it this way: they're a lot better than the idiots in the national media are giving them, and there's a reason for that. Number one, these people don't study individual teams. They don't have time to study them. They look at the names and they go, "Oh, well, he's not that good. Oh, he's good. Oh, he's not that good." They don't know. In fact, the average pro department for an NFL team has like 4 guys doing the whole league. So it's like 8 teams a guy. And each guy knows 8 teams really well. Mm-hmm. Okay. And now you're going to have some writer who doesn't know jack shit about anything. He's going to tell you this team's going to be good or this team's going to be bad. Give me a break. It's just not going to happen. And then, the stuff about Fields, it's ridiculous. They don't look at the situation last year. How things came about. Then you get, you had constant turmoil along the offensive line. You had guys playing that weren't even fits. All that in year 2 has changed. I wrote it last week. I think this offensive line is going to be pretty good. Mm-hmm. I don't know who the center is going to be. It's going to be Whitehair or Patrick, whoever wins the job. Mm-hmm. But then I expect Braxton Jones to take the typical second-year jump, and he was pretty darn good as a rookie. Yeah, he gave up some stuff because he got bull rushed, but his overall play, especially considering where he came from, a low-level FCS school, that was outstanding. Didn't miss one snap all year. Tevin Jenkins, one of the best guards in football last year, and is healthy. To me, it's, going left to right, right to left at guard is not as difficult as for a tackle going from side to side, because the tackle's got to set wide and take on the speed rushers. It's a lot easier for an inside guy, and he has played on the left side. He's got like 11 or 12 games on the left side in college, under his belt. So it's not like it's foreign to him. They got the guy from Tennessee at right guard who is a high-level player, and we all think Wright's going to be pretty good. He's going to go through some growing pains like everybody else. But I'll tell you what, I was too difficult on him, because I watched even more tape. Damn, that guy is really good. Really good.
I'm glad to hear that. He's a lock to go into that right tackle position and stay there, right, for this season?
Yeah, I'm not sure Larry Borum makes the team. Now, he may, because he can play a little bit inside. And the reason I say that is not that he doesn't have talent. I don't think he's a real schematic fit. He was like, we got to have him right now, last year.
Right.
Okay, well, now it's a little different story. Now, because of experience, he may still stick around for a year. But I think, what's the guy's name from Pitt, the free agent, Huey?
Yeah.
He's a stud. And if it wasn't for injuries, and he missed like half the season last year, that guy would have been a draft choice. And he's athletic enough to play on the left side, but he's been strictly on the right side. He's a damn good player, and he's got capability of playing inside. Now, the only problem you may have right now, and which may keep Borum around, is that Borum can play on the left side. He can play on the right side. Going into his third year, there's some reliability there, even though he's not a perfect fit schematically. He's not the most athletic guy. But aside from that, I think there's some quality there. And the wide receiver core, shit, they are the fastest wide receiver core in the league. Mm-hmm. People say, well, Miami's faster. Miami's got one guy faster.
Tyreek
Hill. Okay, but top to bottom, you got your top 6 receivers are all sub 4.5. Who's got that in the league?
Nobody. Jeez.
You know, you go across the front. Chase 3 wide receivers. Chase Claypool's 4.42. DJ Moore's 4.42, and Mooney's a 4.37.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty fast.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Let me get back to the offensive line just for one moment here and ask you about the depth of the team. That's, to me, what I find more exciting than most things about this team, is that it appears for the first time in several years, this offensive line has really solid depth, or at least a promise of being a really solid, deep team at the offensive line. Am I wrong to think that?
I think it's more the promise, because you still got some unanswered questions. Yeah, you've got the loser of the white hair Patrick battle is going to be a backup this year. Mm-hmm. Okay, and probably be his last year here, whoever the loser is. You don't know exactly what J. Tyree Carter is. Mm-hmm. I've got high hopes for him. I think it wouldn't shock me if they try him at center some at camp just to get him the reps. And then, who the hell knows what Leatherwood is?
Yeah, right.
I don't even think about him anymore. But when he played, he was horrendous. Now, granted, he was a first-round pick, and it was only a few years ago. But fact is, he was terrible with the Raiders. And when he got to play here, he was terrible. Well, he's gone through his growing pains to learn the offense and to basically get broken down. And part of that is continuing now during the off season. We'll have to see at camp if he becomes. Now, he's a guy that could play. He was a left tackle in college and a pretty damn good one.
Yeah.
So I mean, he theoretically could be your backup left tackle. It's just, is it up here? I think physically he's got it. I think it's more in his head. He just doesn't have any confidence. And now whether he can regain it, that remains to be seen.
Comment here from, darn it. Let's see. I think I lost it. Michael says Alex Leatherwood didn't look good, but it was a few snaps against the Eagles, so he was in a rough spot. Well, and Greg, you said last year I wouldn't play him. I would not play him and just let him learn the offense.
Yeah, they had to. They had no choice.
Right. So there is a chance that he could potentially become a serviceable offensive lineman with an entire offseason under his belt. But did you see enough from a technique standpoint to sound off an alarm and put him into that concern column?
Well, he didn't block wide speed well. Mm-hmm. And he didn't do it with the Raiders either. And that was always playing on the right side. I go back, when he was at Alabama on the left side, granted it's college, but he had no problem with that.
Right.
So to me, it's a confidence thing. It's not physical. Mm-hmm. And so it's now he's got to work with the coach. Coach got to believe in him too. I mean, he's got to believe in himself, but the coach got to believe in him too, because no coach is going to put anybody in there if they don't think they can play.
Okay. Back to the wide receivers. Broski Bear says Darnell Mooney has screws in his foot as a result of the operation. I'm not expecting anything from him anymore. But let me just say this. I saw in Brad Bigg's Q&A column, he didn't confirm that there were screws. He was asked that question, but nobody from the Bears has said that he has any screws that I've heard of. Have you heard anything about that?
He may or may not. I mean, there's some surgeries that you do that with. And it's not a big deal.
Right.
I got screws in my body. Shit.
I got a couple too.
Yeah, screwing my brain too.
Is that why some people think you're a screwball?
I'll tell you what. Now Mooney was on a podcast with the St. Brown brothers.
Yeah.
Last week.
Okay.
And number one, he's a ball buster, first class.
I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, like he's raring to go. Now, all this stuff that happens during the off season, everybody talks big. You take it with a grain of salt. You got to prove it starting in 2 more months when camp opens up. But I think OTAs start tomorrow. We'll see if he's cleared to go full go in OTAs tomorrow, and that'll be your answer right away. Or do they want to still bring him along a little bit slower, which is fine if they do. But I mean, my God, when did he have surgery? November?
Correct.
Okay, that's like 5-7 months ago, 6.5 months ago.
Yeah. Well, he's an important part of this offense and the trust that Justin Fields has in Mooney. It would be great to see him in that starting lineup. Do you anticipate if all things are equal and he's healthy, do you anticipate him getting the majority of snaps from that slot position?
Yeah, but I think they've got the capability because Moore's played in the slot too. Claypool's going to be the X. That's because they want – in that offense, they prefer to have a big guy. So he fits that role. And St. Brown backs him up. But I think you can interchange DJ Moore and Mooney between the Z receiver and the slot receiver. And some of it can be just for matchups. You want to – if the opponent's got a weak guy in the slot, you may put – who you believe to be your best receiver out of the two on that player. Given Mooney's lack of size, but he played last year was his 3rd year, and he never got hurt in his first 2 years, and it was 10 games in or 11 games in his 3rd year before he ever got hurt. He never got hurt in college. I mean, the guy's been pretty durable, and then he sprained his ankle. He got rolled up on. Yeah. So, he's kind of wiry. And I don't believe he's going to lose any speed. Maybe he loses maybe he's a 4.40 now instead of a 4.37. So, he's a good player. What you go back and look at highlights of Darnell Mooney, he has got a catch radius that is second to none.
Yes.
He's really impressive with that. I think of all the guys they got on this team right now, he probably has the largest catch radius, including DJ Moore. And DJ Moore's got a pretty good one, but just that Mooney balls anywhere he's going to get it. His upper body flexibility is unbelievable.
Now, how do you respond to people who say DJ Moore is not a number 1 wide receiver?
They don't know who the player is.
Okay.
It's real simple. I'll give you some examples because some people say, well, people say, it's a similar situation to Diggs. Well, it's not similar. It's almost identical. Here's some stats. Okay. DJ Moore in Carolina's first 5 years. Now, he only had a reliable quarterback first season and a half. He had Cam Newton, and it was really the back half of Cam Newton's back half, the final quarter of Cam Newton's career. He still caught in 5 seasons, 364 passes, 5,200 yards, and 21 touchdowns. In Stephon Diggs' first 3 years or 5 years in the league at Minnesota, and he had more reliability at quarterback than DJ Moore had at Carolina. 365 catches for 46-23. So one more catch, 600 less yards, but he had more touchdowns. He had 30 touchdowns. But they're damn close. So what people are trying to say, or what they're doing, and they're not looking back to compare apples to apples, is that Stephon Diggs didn't have these consistent 110 catch seasons until he got to Buffalo, not before he got there. Okay, and this guy's been the top receiver in Carolina, really on a lousy team the last 3 years. So why you tell me why he isn't?
Mm-hmm.
You know, A-Rob, he's got better numbers than A-Rob had, and A-Rob was considered a number one. It goes back to what I said a little while ago. People don't know the players they're talking about. They just pull stuff out of their rear end and say it because it's a narrative that they want to create. And it's not a narrative based on fact. It's a narrative based on whatever their narrative, they want their narrative to be.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, when I'm putting together this highlight reel, I was just so amazed. This is a great catch against Jalen Johnson of the Chicago Bears. But what he does after he catches the ball, the yards after catch.
He's like a running back.
Yeah, he really is. And there is this one play here. I'll show it again. It's coming up after he gets into the end zone here. Here's a great example of him feeling the zone and getting into the open spot and then using his hands to bring it into his body. But this next play here, it's a running play, and this is exciting too. I mean, it was a bad snap by Cam Newton. I mean a bad lateral by Newton, but he can run after touching the ball. And here's another one against the Lions, against Don Burr's Lions. He's just a really outstanding player. I didn't get a chance to study all of the stats, but I noticed that almost every year, with the exception of last year, in terms of receptions and yards, he was among the top 15 players. And so that, to me, is a number one wide receiver. There's only 30 number one wide receivers in the National Football League. So if you want to use that criteria,
I use a better term, and that there's 32 teams in the league, but there's not 32 number ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last year the Bears didn't have a true number one. You know, but I think he's a legitimate number one receiver in the league.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the chemistry between Fields and Moore? Do you anticipate that it could take a while to develop, or what may give you some hope that they can get going pretty quickly with chemistry?
Well, they were doing some work before the offseason program even started. Now, the offseason program started a week and a half before the draft. I think it was like the 17th of April it started. So they're like 5 weeks in right now. They've got roughly 4 more weeks and 3.5 weeks. And you know darn well they'll probably take a week off, and then these guys are going to assemble and work together for probably a week to 10 days, you know, before they come into camp. It's not like, you know, you get done with OTAs and then you go on vacation and you don't work out. Mm-hmm. You know, used to be, you know, years ago. I mean, before I even got in the league, that was the whole reason behind double sessions, is because, first of all, guys weren't making that much money as professional football players, so they had real jobs during the off season, and they needed double sessions to get in shape. That's the only purpose, that it became a tradition. Doesn't have anything to do with anything else other than that.
That's true. OTAs, I think they start today, right? Tomorrow, but players are reporting today, aren't they?
Well, no, they're voluntary. So the veterans have been there, most of them anyway. They have never given out a figure as to who's here and who isn't here. Mm-hmm. But they could come in the 17th of April. The rookies have been here since May 15th. Okay. So they had the draft. Then that next weekend, they had the rookie mini camp. They were home for a week, and then they were back, actually, you know, traveled on Sunday, got in town Sunday, and then, you know, on May 15th, which was last week, they started as part of the off-season program. And that's league-wide. on the 15th. That's a set date by the league. So it's I think there's 3 full weeks of OTAs, 3 a week. And then you got the last week, you got the mini camp, and anybody who was not at the OTAs has to be at the mini camp or they get fined. That's not voluntary. It's rule.
Okay.
Mandatory. I couldn't think of the word.
So us fans, share with us what we fans should be looking for in these OTAs when we're getting reports from the media that's allowed to take a look at them, and we're hearing the coaches and players talk. There be anything specific? What exactly is the goal of these first OTAs? Is it, to get players acclimated with the playbook? Well,
no, actually, they've been doing that since the first 2 weeks of the off-season program. So it's phase 1. Mm-hmm. Okay, they can meet, but there's no real Pep Hamilton. When I was working with Pep, he used to call it class on grass. So you weren't going outside working on stuff. It was strictly conditioning. Then, since then, you still got your conditioning, weightlifting, everything else, but you're going outside for hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. And it's individual and team, but it's one side of you can't have offense against defense. It's strictly offense on one side of the field, defense on the other side of the field. They can't go against each other.
Okay.
So they've been working on this for a month, mm-hmm. and the rookies for a week. Some guys walking by my house and my dog's giving them hell, if you can hear them.
Oh, yeah.
So now at OTAs and in mini camp, now you can have offense against defense.
Okay.
So you can have one-on-ones in the pass game. You can have 7-on-7, those types of things. You still can't have contact. Mm-hmm. And the league really and they've gotten stronger at it or more studious in the last few years, because you've got to send the tape of your practices to the league, and if they see contact, they could penalize you a day or 2 of OTAs. They can even take away if it's too flagrant. They can take a draft choice away.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when Lovey was here. This is before the league was clapping down. Mm-hmm. Our DBs got a little physical with the wide receivers now. Theoretically, you can't even play press coverage in this. So you can do man, but you can't jam the guy. Okay. But now it's football. The DBs do touch the wide receivers a little, but it better not be more than just, like a one-hand little shove type thing, because any contact at all is totally not allowed by the league. And so you can't have where the OTAs help. It helps your skill people. So your wide receivers, your running backs, tight ends, linebackers, defensive backs, offensive and defensive line. Let them go out to lunch if you want, because with them it's timing and working on technique. They cannot go against each other.
And Cornelius reminds us that the Bears were fined or penalized last season for excessive contact during the OTAs. So Eberflus loves to see these guys hit during camp, and so who knows? We may see another incident or two where the NFL steps in and says,
"Well, we used to, when Lovey was here, the last day of OTAs was always a party day. Mm-hmm. So they go bowling or something as a group, but they never had a quote practice."
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you think about people who want to erect a statue of Lovie Smith for winning that last game of the season with the Tysons and telling them, "Screw you, I'm going to help out my old team, the Bears"?
I don't know if it really had anything to do with that more than himself.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I don't think it had anything to do with the Bears, but as it turned out, I mean, I don't know. Well, Houston probably would have taken Young had they had the first pick, but then they still made that trade to get up to 3 to get a quarterback and an edge pass rusher. But from my understanding is that it was that came from ownership. We got to have a quarterback. And so that put him and Caserio then was like, well, I got to get my defensive head coach a strong pass rusher too. So he had to make some moves in order to do that.
Yeah, indeed. Now in these OTAs, there are going to be a lot of eyes on those 2 young defensive tackles that the Bears acquired.
Well, that's useless.
Why is that?
Because they can't do anything. They're conditioning. They can't work against offensive linemen. I mean, when you get in the team period, they come off the ball and they touch each other. That's it. You can't even push the guy. So they're better off having the defensive guy holding a bag, because those are worthless. It doesn't get into really football for the big guys, for the elephants, until we get to training camp at the end of July.
So perhaps the biggest thing they can show coaches is how quickly they are learning the playbook so that things aren't being repeated. And Michael asked a question, can the undrafted free agents show anything early in OTAs?
The skill people can. Okay. The skill OTAs are great for skill people now. Okay. But for linemen, it's more mental than anything else. Now, you're working on technique, but you're working against a sled, a dummy, a bag, or whatever. So it's just not the same as real football when you get into camp. You can work on different techniques and stuff. They do work on what they call fits in the defense. So, because it's a gap control defense. And so every gap has got to be controlled by a different player. So they always work on those things, and you can do that without hitting people. And so going through the mental part of the game, they can learn. It's just that they're not taking part in the physical aspect of the game until we get to camp. That's why I think, that's just the way it is with big people, so they're behind the rest of the guys, because the rest of the guys, you can get something out of one-on-ones. You can get something out of 7-on-7.
There was a nice tape posted by Swift Sports Network on Zach Pickens. And, this guy, he strikes me as the guy who could potentially play some 3-tech for this team. Your thoughts?
He's a 3. I mean, you look at his movement skills, his size, how fast he is, his athleticism. I was watching his combine workout the other day, and he's really fluid, and he's got very good body control. Now, he's a better athlete than Dexter is, but he's not as big as Dexter. 6'6" and 310, and now the other guy, he played at 300 last year, but he was 290 at the combine. Right. Zach Pickens. But to me, he's a 3, but they are theoretically interchangeable. So, I mean, what against you're one player away on the defensive line. You've got guys who are playing outside that can play inside on pass rush downs if needed. They still don't have that bona fide speed rusher. There's 2 maybes on the team, but you don't know we won't know the answer to them. One is Dominique Robinson, who they drafted last year, who started off quickly and then, hit the rookie wall. And then there's Gibson, and he fell off. He had like 7 or 7.5 sacks the year before, and you were expecting him to maybe get 9. And what do you have, 2? I don't even know what the final number was, but he went downhill. And I know that, there's people in the front office that were down on him. They're not ready to show him the door, but he's what's the word I want? He's on warning. He's on probation.
There you go. Mike
Double
says
secret.
Mike says that Ian Cunningham compared Pickens to Javon Hargrave. Do you think he has that kind of potential?
He's taller than Hargrave. You watch Hargrave's got a bucket that's about this wide. I think he's more athletic. Hargrave's real explosive, and he's really quick off the ball. So I think can he have that explosiveness? He might. I mean, when you look at the numbers, his numbers, both of those guys put up really good across the board. I mean, not just their speed, but across the board, their numbers are pretty good. Their change of direction, their jumps, they were all pretty darn good. So, Hargrave was a later round pick, but he proved himself. And now these guys still got to prove themselves.
Absolutely.
Everything looks good on paper. You got to do it.
Absolutely. A couple of weeks ago, you sent me a graphic of some of the weightlifting results from Andrew Billings when he was in high school, I want to say.
Yeah, he was a Texas State champion.
Yeah, and you were telling me these numbers are off the chart. This guy is strong.
His 3 powerlifting lifts. So you got the deadlift, the bench, and the squat. In his last year in high school, the combined total was over 2,000 pounds.
Wow.
He had a 500 bench. He had a 500 bench, like a 500 and something pound deadlift, or it might have been, and then like a 700 and something pound squat. I mean, that's a strong dude. And then you go back and you look at his tape at Texas Tech. He's a bitch. It's like he did rush the passer in college, but he's only 6'1", but you aren't moving that guy off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a powerful dude. And I read an article, looking up an article, and there's people that say he might be the second strongest guy ever to play in the National Football League, with the strongest being Larry Allen.
That is something. Wow. Now, it was interesting. Before he signed with the Bears, he is related to RKB of the Barfly Tailgate Show. And so he had him on as a guest. And one of the questions Jordan Silvera posed to Billings is, a lot of people don't talk about you as potentially playing the 3 tech, but what do you think? And this big smile at Andrew Billings. And he basically said, I would love to play the 3 tech and beat the crap out of that guard and help the defenders do what they need to do. So he knows where the money is. The 3 tech position pays more than that nose tackle position.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I just go back. You go back and you look at his college tape. It's not good. It's outstanding. And then, but he's short. He's just not quite 6'1". He's like 6'1.5" 6'7". He's got good arm length for a shorter guy, but he's just so strong and very explosive and quick off the ball. I don't know how you got that guy on a 1-year deal. I really don't.
Yeah.
He's short, but you aren't running on him. and you aren't blocking him. He's going to put his hands on you, and you aren't moving him.
CJ asks, do you foresee situations where on first down, Billings and Dexter are out there in the middle of the defensive line?
Yeah, you could have that. I look at these guys are going to play a rotation. We already know that.
Mm-hmm.
And is it going to be 50-50, 60-40? That remains to be seen. It's really up to the players who's playing the best. If there's a big drop off when you put in your second group, then then it might be 60-40. But the whole idea, and this is happening across the league, you want to keep fresh bodies in there. So you keep them in a series, and then the next series you put the next group in, or whatever, and you try to keep the snap counts pretty close. Again, they just need another edge rusher. You got to get an edge rusher, and it's like, who is that going to be? And I don't know. And I tell you, there's one thing, and for some reason it slipped me. I don't know if it's ever been brought up, but the Bears defensive line coach, Travis Smith, he's coached Ngakoue. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not.
Well, I didn't either. He coached him at the Raiders 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But now that people say, "Oh, that's a given. That's the guy they'll after." Well, maybe you didn't like him. Who knows?
Indeed, yeah. That can play a role sometimes in player management decisions. Let's get to the topic of Joey Lane. He has now left the Chicago Bears to become the salary cap analyst for the Green Bay Packers. He spent 10 years with the Saints. Ryan Pace brought him to the Bears, where he was with the Bears for the last 8 seasons, helping to negotiate contracts. No, he wasn't really a negotiator of contracts, was he? He was more.
No, he negotiated the contracts.
Okay, and so now he's doing that with the Packers along with somebody else.
When Pace came in, he brought his own cap guy. So Stein really got pushed aside, and he was already the corporate counsel for the Bears, but he became strictly the corporate counsel, and then. When Poles got hired, this is the first guy that was shown the door, and Cliff was brought back immediately.
Yeah, Michael says, "Don't let the door hit you in the ass, Joey."
I'm going to tell you what. I had that nice conversation out at the East West with Ryan Poles, and Cliff's name got brought up, and the stuff he was talking about. I mean, he said, I would never have made it without the help of Cliff Stein. He goes, He just did so much for me. He goes, I look back at it. He goes, it probably wasn't healthy. I was working so much, but that's what happens when you get a new job. You just, you get a situation like that, and you work as many hours a day as you can, because you got to try to turn things around. But he said the help Cliff has given him, it's just been invaluable.
That is great to hear, and it's great to hear that he's, probably working alongside people he wants to work with, build that department of administrators the way that he wants.
But to get on with Joey, I don't know the man, but I know a lot of agents, and I have yet to talk to an agent that likes him. So. I remember when Roquan was having his holdout his rookie year, and his agent is a friend of mine, a guy I know from Buffalo going way back, and I've known him for years. And he was motherfucking this guy to death.
Wow.
And he goes, if Stein was doing this, I would have had it done in 12 hours. And,
interesting.
Yeah. And there's other agents who said the same thing. He's just pompous, arrogant jerk. And the way he structures contracts leaves a lot to be desired, because, now obviously the GM's got to sign off on that stuff.
Right.
But, it put the Bears in camp cap hell last year.
Indeed. And he left the Saints in the same situation.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't the head. In fairness to him, he was the assistant guy.
Okay.
At the Saints. And so, but he was real close with Pace. They were good buddies. So Pace brought him here, been out of the league for the last year. Now he might have still been under contract and getting paid. I don't know, what his contract read. But Green Bay hired him. I clapped my hands when I heard that. I said, shit, best thing that ever happened to Green Bay. He can ruin their cap. And it's bad. And it's just, he's very, again, I don't know. I know what people tell me.
Sure.
He's very difficult to work with.
Well, he doesn't, as J2K says, he looks like a guy that sells beachfront property.
One guy said, I just want to punch him. And he's got that look,
Yeah, that snarky, smirky look.
Like I'm smarter than you type.
Oh, I hate people like that. Anyway, let us field some questions here from our followers. Let's see. Let's go with this one. Do you think Justin Fields will be a top 15 quarterback in the league this year? Do you have a quarterback comp for Fields?
I hate using comps. I use them every once in a while, but I really don't like it. And I'll go back to when I've used this before. George Young told me, God, 40 years ago now. He goes, Greg, this isn't Hinduism. There's no such thing as reincarnation. So you can't. Every player is their own individual self. He's a unique athlete. No one I'm surprised at. I'm surprised that, like during the draft, that nobody compared Richardson to Fields. But Fields played a lot more than Richardson did at Florida. He had a lot more starting games, but athletically, they're very, very similar. In fact, I had sent, he had Richardson ran 4.41 or something like that at the combine, 4.42, and Justin Fields ran 4.44, and he only ran once at the Ohio State Pro Day. And, Daniel Jeremiah was gushing about him, and I sent him a text while he was on the air. I go, hey, DJ, just remember Fields ran a 4.44 at Ohio State. And he said that. He goes, you're right. I should have mentioned that. But he's a rare athlete. The worst thing you could say about him is that I wish he had a little quicker delivery. But I thought it really improved from year one to year two, improved dramatically. And I think it'll improve more this year. And then he's got more time in the offense. He's more comfortable in the offense. And we saw the last half of the year, take out the part when he was hurt. The last half of the year, the numbers were a lot better than the first half of the year. So you got to go off on that. But I when you look at the supporting cast, and we know the line's going to be better. The top three wide receivers are pretty damn good. You got a good tight end, and then you got Tanyan. And the Bears haven't had anybody like Tanyan in like forever. That really athletic move tight end. He'll give you effort as a blocker, but he's not going to do a whole lot. But he's a guy who ran coming out like 4.58, somewhere around in there. There's been several seasons when he's had more than 50 catches. He's a good player. And he gives them a dimension they haven't had where, Cole Kmet is your why. But this guy can create mismatches when you want to go two wides and two tight ends. So they've got the personnel now that you can mix and match things and try to create mismatches, against the defense.
That's so exciting to hear that and to see that too. Bruce Ollie Walter Jordan asks, do you think Fields will surpass 3,000 passing yards this year? And given what you just said, I'd be shocked. And
the only thing that, I mean, injury can hold that up and bad weather can hold that up. Otherwise, it's not, I'm thinking more like, 35 to 37. I thought Trubisky got off to a real good start one year, and I thought there was a chance he might hit 4. And then you get he dropped off a little bit, and then you get it. We're in Chicago. You're going to have some bad weather games in the second half of the season, and that's going to affect some of your throwing stats. It's not like you're playing in a dome every week.
Yeah, indeed. Next question we got here is Mr. Inglewood asks, when the Bears defense gives up a long scoring drive and then Justin turns around and breaks off one of those long touchdown runs, doesn't that wear down the defense at some point?
Well, yeah, it's time of possession. In theory, you'd want the offense to take their time scoring, but you're not going to take the points off the board if you get a big play, right?
Absolutely.
And that's another reason why you do those rotations, so that they don't get worn down like they used to. So you got to have 7 to 8 good off or defensive linemen. Got to. It's imperative.
And that's something I've been meaning to ask you for some time every time we talk about the rotation. But isn't it really difficult now to make these substitutions with the way, offenses are running their schemes now? I mean, if this team likes to keep their defensive linemen fresh, I'm going to run a fast-paced offense to keep those guys on the sideline and tire out that line.
Yeah, but if you want, they change the rules a little bit. If you want to substitute, the official goes up to the line of scrimmage and stands by the ball. That's your right to get people in there.
Okay. All right. Good to know. The other thing regarding Justin Fields and his improvement this year, how confident are you? I shouldn't phrase it that way, but I will because I can't think of a better way. How confident are you that Ryan Poles is the right offensive coordinator for Justin Fields?
Ryan Poles.
Excuse me, Luke Getsy.
Luke Getsy. Personally, just from what I've seen of him in the last year, almost year and a half, I'm impressed with him as a person.
Yes, me too.
And he, I was watching some clips of him down at the Senior Bowl where he was the head coach, and he does a good job. A lot of positive reinforcement. He's got a good scheme. Now, last year it wasn't his first year as a play caller, but it was first year in the league as a play caller. He'd been a play caller in college. Okay. And now he's got that year under his belt. And probably a lot of fans don't understand this or don't realize. Now, understand is not the right word, realize it. That during the off season, you go over every single damn play you ran during the year. And why it worked, why it didn't work. Was it the right play? Was it called at the right time? So that they're critiquing everything. It's a long task. And it's one of the first things they do as soon as the season's over. So that alone helps because you're getting critique. You've got other people in the room that are helping you. And you're seeing where you made mistakes. And we're seeing where a different call might have been better in that situation. And it's just like anybody else, you got to get experience and learn.
Yeah, and one of the things about Getsy that had me scratching my head is that I felt like as the season went on, he became more and more conservative with the play calling. After, Fields had that incredible stretch where he was running with the ball and picking up 100 yards per game and so forth, and defenses started to spy on him more, that he started to rely on the run game. And there were situations like on 3rd and 6 where he was running the ball and stuff. And it almost felt like, wow, it feels like he's been told, keep it conservative. Did you get that sense at all last season?
No, I don't know if I agree with you on that, but I think part of it has to do with the continuity of the players, and the coaching staff feeling comfortable with who they have in there and what they're able to do. Now, don't forget, like Mooney got hurt in game 11. Claypool, they got at the trade deadline, and then he got hurt and he missed some time. I mean, you had times when you were playing with all backups at the wide receiver position, so that has something to do with it. And then, the offensive line was different every week. And so that plays into it too.
Next question is from Michael Henneman. Greg, where's our defensive end coming from? My thoughts is it might be the waiver wire because we get first dibs there. Yeah,
it's not going to be the waiver wire.
Yeah, not a quality defensive end is not going to be dropped, right?
No, he's not going to be. Well, first of all, he's a vested vet. He doesn't go on waivers. Okay. So if you got 4 years of service, the minute you get cut, you're a free agent. So it's only the young guys that pass through waivers. After the trade deadline, then everybody has to go through waivers, including the vested vets. So there's still guys out on the street. And they're the same guys that are out on the street 4 weeks ago and 6 weeks ago and 8 weeks ago. None of them, nobody has signed at that position. My guess is that they're all looking for more money, and teams don't want to pay them. Right. The only thing, Poles said on the radio a week ago last Friday, that, something's going to happen sooner and his quote was sooner rather than later. Now, he brought up trade as well as or sign somebody off the street, but he specifically mentioned, we got trades or free agent acquisitions we can get, and but he brought up the trade thing without being asked the trade thing. So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's somebody they're talking to. There could very well be. But when he said sooner rather than later, to me, that was, we're getting close on some things and we want to have, I thought they might, want to have it going until tomorrow because OTAs start tomorrow. It doesn't have to be. Because again, with the offensive and defensive linemen, it really doesn't matter, but they get to learn the terminology,
right?
And what they're getting asked to do. But with the pass rusher, hey, there's the quarterback, go get him.
Exactly.
We're not asking you to do a lot. Just hit that son of a bitch.
I love it. Next question is from J2K. What do you think, by the way, of Kindle Vildor? Is he on the roster bubble? And he's asking the question, who do you see outside at cornerback? Could it be Vildor, Stevenson, or Smith? Your thoughts on that corner position?
I think it's going to be Vildor or Stevenson. Might be Vildor at the beginning of the year. Yeah, I think, Kyler Gordon is inside. I don't know who the backup. I'll tell you, it wouldn't surprise me. And I wrote this a couple weeks ago that one of the last year's free agent surprises was Jalen Jones from Ole Miss, and I didn't realize this. He's played in every game and started 4 or 5, and he actually played pretty good. I think he might be your backup at the slot. And now you're going to carry at least 6 corners. Smith and Stevenson are going to be there. Jalen Johnson's going to be there. And I think Vildor is probably going to be the other. Vildor actually, until he got hurt, was having his best season.
He was.
People want to throw him out there because we talked about it last year on here.
Yes.
You know, he was playing pretty damn good football. So, and he can play press coverage.
Yes.
And he's got some stoutness to him. There's some toughness to him too. I'm not ready to walk away from him. Mm-hmm. You know, if somebody comes in and, you know, one of the guys that are here beat him out, fine. That means you're a better football team, right?
Right. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm still holding out hope for Kindle Vildor. He has had some plays where he's just looked ridiculously bad, and I think that has.
Well, one last year.
Yeah, true. But I think, you know, a lot of us fans sometimes carry that. You know, they see a bad play and they immediately label a guy, oh, this guy's a bust. And it takes a while for us to be convinced otherwise.
You remember what I've said this a lot. Fans want instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's like Chase Claypool. Mm-hmm. Well, Chase Claypool, you're supposed to come in here and catch 50 passes the last half of the season. Why didn't he? He's a bust. We got to get rid of him.
Yeah.
It's not the way it works.
It's not the way it works at all. All right. What about Roschon Johnson, the rookie running back? Have you, during our time apart, have you looked at any more tape or heard any more things about him?
He's a good player. He's a good player.
Yeah.
And, you know, he plays a lot faster than that time was. Now, whether he just – and when you look at the, you know, all his numbers across the board are pretty darn good. But he plays like 4.50, 4.48. I mean, he's not a burner, but he's got a real quick burst. But he doesn't have a weakness in his game. He's a strong runner inside. He's got the burst to turn the corner outside. Catches the ball very well. There's one catch I saw one-handed that he had to turn around and still just grabbed it like he had a catcher's mitt on. And he's a pretty good blocker. So, I think you've got with running backs, you don't want to have all the same thing. With your top three, you've got guys that they all got different strong points. Now, everybody likes Khalil Herbert because he's he can get the big play. He's the breakaway guy. But there's two things he doesn't do. He doesn't block worth shit, and he doesn't catch the ball very well. You know, so he's got to. Now, are those things you can improve on? Absolutely. You know, work on the jugs machine to improve your hands, and blocking to me is want to. I want to be a good blocker, or I don't want to be a good blocker. Because if you want to be, you will be. I mean, obviously, you got to have the strength, but it's more want to than anything else. But then, you know, the name, and I can't think of his name now, the guy they signed from Seattle is a free agent.
Travis Homer.
Yeah, Travis Homer. That's the guy Poles specifically went after. He can run. He's a very good special teams player, but he catches the ball really, really well, and he's a pretty good blocker. So, you know, it'll be interesting. They got four pretty good guys there, and then you got most teams only keep 4 running backs total. But you know, Blasingham's going to have a job, you know, because he's a fullback because they're going to use a fullback sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Treston Ebner, have you? I don't want to say given up on him, but his play last season didn't. He didn't catch the passes out of the backfield that I was hoping to see. Are you concerned about him?
He didn't get a lot of chances, in fairness.
True.
But he didn't have any consistency when he did play. And so you're always looking to get better. He's in his second year. You should have a second-year bump. I think the competition at that position is going to be really strong, you know, during camp. That's going to be one of the real interesting storylines going into camp. You know, everybody is probably saying it's going to be Khalil Herbert, Donta Foreman, and Roshan Johnson are going to be the running backs, and that's it. But you know what? You got some other guys there that are going to say, wait a minute. I'm here. Don't forget about me.
Yeah. That's going to be fun to watch, and probably the best depth we've had at that running back position in some time. A few more questions, and we'll get you out of here. Michael Halatak, my old buddy, says, what is your opinion on Doug Kramer, the second-year offensive lineman out of Illinois? Do you think he's competing for a center position or a backup role?
In fairness, I don't know what he is. He got hurt in preseason. He got hurt in the third preseason game. I think he got hurt in the second preseason game. Mm-hmm. And there's only 3. So did he play good in the first game and before he got hurt? Yeah. But who's seen enough of him to know?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're going to give him a really good look, and I'm just hopeful that he's going to make this offensive line better with the depth that he could potentially bring.
Well, you're only getting the one problem he has is, to the best of my knowledge, he's a center only, and Cody Whitehair can play guard and center. Patrick can play guard and center. Borum can play tackle and guard. Leatherwood is, as of right now, strictly. No, he did play. Didn't he play a little guard last year too?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay, but he's got position versatility, and if you can't play more than one position, it hurts you, and especially at that center position. Mm-hmm. It used to be teams kept 8. Now more teams are keeping 9 offensive linemen, but they dress 7 on Sundays. And so that means your 2 backups, they might not necessarily be number 6 and 7 on your depth chart, but they've got the flexibility or the versatility. One's got to be able to play center and guard. The other guy's got to play guard and tackle.
Yeah.
And so it's their versatility that sometimes counts more with the coaching staff as far as dressing on Sunday than the actual talent.
Okay. Are you surprised that DeAndre Houston Carson has not signed with the team yet? And you think there's a chance he'll be back with the Bears?
I think there's a chance, and I am surprised because he played pretty good, but he's also 30 years old. I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah.
Who knows what we had a rookie last year. You got a rookie this year. They're both late round picks. Who knows what those guys are? Mm-hmm. But you know what Houston Carson is, and he's a good player. It would not surprise me if he's back here. I really, in all honesty, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been signed by somebody.
Yeah, indeed. Same here. Okay, I think this will be the last question. J2K asks, how much does Brian Flores improve that Vikings depleted defense? Are you a Brian Flores fan?
As a head coach, no, because of things I was told that I'm not going to repeat. But he's a very good defensive coach, but is he going to improve? Who the hell knows? Mm-hmm. They've got rid of a bunch of guys on defense and brought in some new guys. Now we got to see how they all play.
Right.
I think the inside, the interior of their defensive line is going to be totally different.
Mm-hmm. What type of a coach is he? I mean, he's a bring the pressure kind of defensive coach, isn't he?
Well, his main experience is under Belichick. Mm-hmm. So really that's doing multiple fronts. And then, going from there. I mean, Belichick was always a 3-4 guy, but then as he got different personnel, he's changed. He's played 4-3 and 3-4. And now really what it gets down to is that's your base. That's your first down, 3-4 or 4-3, because everybody's playing nickel. And when you're playing nickel, you're really playing for, you know, 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, 2 linebackers, and 5 DBs. You know, everybody's really doing the same thing. It's just how, you know, how your coverage schemes are different, how your pass rush is different, et cetera. But a lot of teams are, you know, lining up pretty much the same way once they get into nickel or the sub package.
Wow, what a great show. It's been so much fun getting back in the chair here and talking football with you, sir. You and I are going to chat right after we say our formal goodbyes. Anything you want to say to your fans before we sign off?
Let's fall asleep and wake up, and it's the end of July, and we can start camp.
Oh, I love that thinking.
That's right. I'll tell you, though, know what's funny? You know how long it was waiting for the draft?
Yes.
It's been a freaking month now, and it went by just like that.
I know, right? I know, but I am with you. I feel the same way. I wish I could fall asleep and just wake up, and all of a sudden I'm at Hallis Hall watching training camp and doing more shows with you. So I think that's it. I think we'll pull the plug on this. Let's see if there's another comment or two. Joe is saying, thanks, Greg. Always appreciate your honest opinions. It's getting hard to find people like yourself. That's for you, Greg.
I
Gabriel.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and then we have John Giglio. I was going to say Gigolo, but I think it's Gigolo. He found the Winston Churchill quote: "If you are not a liberal when you are young, you have no heart, and if you are not a conservative when old, you have no brain." I love it. I love it. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all for people who joined us live and all the good wishes. We will, I think we'll be here in a week or so. Greg and I are going to talk about that, and then we'll let you all know very, very soon what our plans are coming up. So for Greg Gabriel, I'm Aldo Gandia. Take care, everybody.
See you later.